Welcome to the second tutorial in my series for Adobe InDesign CS, Placing Images and Graphics. For this tutorial, I'm going to be using the Executive Brochure template and the Glamour Magazine template to demonstrate placing the images. Right now I have the Executive Brochure template open. I'm on page 2 and 3 of the Executive Brochure template. This particular page has a grid of images, which will be really great for practicing placing images. On all of my templates, I will have simple placing instructions on all the graphic frames in case you get lost or forget how to do this. Let's go ahead and place an image inside this graphic frame. We're going to select it by clicking on it. Go to File, to Place, locate an image on your computer or an external hard drive. I like to save all of my images in one folder that I know I'm going to be using on my marketing, and I save them at 300 dpi for resolution and 7 by 10 for dimensions. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and locate an image to place into my graphic frame. You can double click on that image or click on the image and then click the open button at the bottom. Okay, InDesign will then place your image inside that graphic frame, and if you move your mouse over to the center, the content grabber icon will appear. You can click and hold that image and move it around inside that graphic frame. The graphic frames work very similar to the layer masks in Photoshop, so if you move it around, it disappears. The image is still there, it's just hidden inside that graphic frame. My image is actually proportioned to the left and right side of my graphic frame, but say it's not. Let me extend this out and show you how to center it using a command in InDesign. Now, if you placed your image inside the graphic frame and it comes in a lot bigger than the graphic frame itself, and that's indicated by the red outline outside of the graphic frame. That's your entire image. To fit it inside the graphic frame, go to Object, Fitting, to fill frame proportionally, and InDesign will reduce the size of the image and fill the graphic frame from left to right of your image. Mine is a little bit longer in length, so I have more at the top and more at the bottom of my image. And InDesign actually centered it completely within that graphic frame, and I like where it's positioned. I think that she has enough space above at the top for her head. It's not getting cut off, and there's plenty of space at below, and I can see her hand, and it's not getting cut off in the graphic frame. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that. Let's move over to the next image. Click on the graphic frame, go to File, to Place, locate an image, and double click on it. Okay, now that we've placed our second image, I'm going to show you how to increase the size of that image inside that graphic frame. Say you want a different kind of crop, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit so we can see this. Say you want a different kind of crop and you want to extend the size of this image inside that graphic frame. Just go ahead and move your mouse over to the center of the image until the content grabber appears. Click on the image, and holding down the Shift key, grab the handle or the corner handle of that image and click and drag it out. We're constraining the proportions of the image by holding down the Shift key so it doesn't distort the photograph. And I'm going to move my mouse over until I see the hand appear above the image, and I'm going to click and drag it over. Now what I did is I'm zooming in, so I just cut off a little bit of her elbow, and I cut off too much of her head, so I'm going to reduce this a little. Hold down the Shift key and click and drag the corner in just a little bit. Sorry, my mouse is very sensitive and it moves the page around a little bit. Let's try that again. Click and hold the corner of the image and drag it in a little bit until the crop is about where you want it. And I'm moving my mouse over until I see the hand, and I'm going to click and move the image up just a little bit manually. You can also use your arrow key up and down to incrementally move that image up. And I want it to be just at the bottom, to just shave it off a little bit of that elbow and cut off a little bit of her head. And I'm going to move it over to the left just a little bit to center her shoulders inside that graphic frame. On the left-hand side of this particular template, we have another image that has text over it. You want to pick a picture that won't have someone's face getting cut off by that text. So let's go ahead and find an image that fits really well with this particular layout. Let's go to File, click on the graphic frame, go to File, to Place, and let's locate an image. I'm going to double click on that to place it inside our graphic frame. And this image has a lot of doesn't have a lot of contrast because what he's wearing is really dark and the text is really, really dark as well. I'll go further in how to adjust that in another tutorial for adding swatches and changing color. But for now, we're just looking at the layout. Now his face is really well proportioned above that text. I really like it, but I actually want to increase the size of this image. So I'm going to move my mouse over to the center of the image so that my content grabber appears. I'm going to click on that image and pull out a corner to increase the size of this. And I can actually pull a side down, or pull a side out as well, as long as I hold my shift key to constrain the proportions of the image so it won't distort it. And I think that's gotten quite big, and I like that particular size of the image, so I'm just going to drag it down to center his chin just above that bit of text. Okay, and I like where that's placed. I'm going to go ahead and deselect the image by moving my mouse to the outside of the document and clicking into the white space. Okay, so now just repeat those instructions on placing images. Again, that's clicking on the graphic frame, going to File, to Place, locating an image, and double-clicking on it. Then going to Object, to Fitting, to fill frame proportionally to center the image inside that graphic frame. Alright, now say we have an image that actually goes outside the bleed area of our document. I'm going to go to the Glamour Magazine template, and I am on page 8 and 9 of that template. And if you look at the right-hand corner, or sorry, the right-hand side of the document spread, I have an image that goes all the way to the edge of the document. And let me zoom in so you can see the guides again. Now again, everything in the red line is going to be our bleed area. Everything where the black line is where the page gets trimmed off during printing, and the magenta line is our safe area. So this is where you want to place your text. Okay, so back to placing an image. I want to fill this particular image to show you what it looks like when you have an image that bleeds off the edge of the page. Click on the graphic frame, go to File, to Place, locate an image to place there. Double click on it, InDesign fills it, and now you'll see that the image, this particular image, will bleed off the edge of the page. Just remember that anything above this black line gets trimmed off during the printing process. Let me zoom back out. So make sure that your image is positioned where you want it to be trimmed off. I think her head might be a little too close to the edge, so I want to just bring that in a little bit. I can use my mouse and click and drag it down. Or I can use the down arrow on my keyboard and just click that incrementally and bring her head down just enough so I can see a little bit of that background. Okay, there's still a lot more that we need to cover on placing images and graphics. Go ahead and start watching the second half of this tutorial, Placing Images and Graphics Part 2.